to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book A Forgotten Door Cold Home. No other than Pastor Cheryl Kincaid. Welcome to Book 101, Pastor Cheryl, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name is Cheryl Kincaid. I'm a pastor, a Presbyterian minister. I have a master's degree in divinity, but I studied marriage and family therapy. And I worked in a group home for children who had been abused for many years, as well as being a foster parent. And I also came from that kind of environment as well. Um, I bachelor undergraduate was child development, and I've been writing most of my life. I got training through Rape Crisis Center and facilitated support groups for survivors of abuse for about 10 years as well.
Pastor Cheryl Kincaid, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And can you introduce us to Karen and Lulani? Who are they and how their path intersect?
Okay, so it's Carrie and Leilani, and they meet each other in a group home. And Carrie comes from an environment where she was abused, and she was taken out of the home when someone at church found out. And but she's not sure who found out, and she's feeling very suspicious about that. Laloni lost her mother to cancer, and her father became an alcoholic. And both these girls are kind of struggling with, because they're both people of faith, they're kind of struggling with the idea of why does God allow this to happen to his children. And they're also trying to just grow up, trying to do all the things that young girls try to do to grow up, trying to go to school, trying to look good, trying to keep friendships. But in the midst of this, they're also dealing with their own childhood abuse. And they're just two characters. The story's about five different women who are trying to create home, and they've lost their homes in their life. One woman's a Guatemalan refugee, and she lost her home to the drug cartel. That's Abasi. And then there was a young woman who's just about ready to have a baby, and she's got a good home with her husband, but she just recently lost her mother, and she found out that her mother was a refugee, and she's trying to understand, because her mother kept that as a secret, trying to understand what that means to her heritage. And then in the midst of this, we have Liloni's aunts. Liloni, after she leaves foster care, the state places her with two of her aunts who are very different than her. Liloni's from Hawaii, but her grandma can't afford to keep her, so she has to stay with her aunts in the UK, and she doesn't quite fit in. But both of her aunts don't really fit in because alcoholism is a legacy in their family. So it's about all these women trying to figure out, what does it mean to make a home? What does it mean to feel comfortable and to enjoy the pleasure of a space where you don't have to fight anyone, a space where you can feel safe. And that's why it's called A Forgotten Door Called Home.
Beautifully articulated, Pastor Cheryl. Very well said. What are the biggest challenges these characters face in their individual faith journeys?
So, I could you repeat that? I didn't hear the whole question. Say it again for me, please.
Yes, what are the biggest challenges these characters face in their individual faith journeys?
I think most of them they're trying to define, what does it mean to trust God when God will allow bad things to happen to you. Um, Liloni's grandma, who wants to take her daughter in but can't afford to, um, she found her Christianity in a missionary school, And the missionary school was abusive. And I did that on purpose because sometimes people who bring us faith aren't always responsible in the way they do it. And so each of them are trying to discover what does it mean to love a person, because we all love people in different ways, and find that person severely flawed and know that you can't trust them. And as a reflection of that, what does it mean to trust God and understand that he's not always going to protect you, and that you got to find a sense of safety in the tension that bad things can happen, because we all know that they do happen. And but you also got to have to find serenity within yourself. Decided that you have a peace within inside yourself because you have this relationship with God that the world doesn't really match. And so all these characters are trying to understand that and grapple with it. And they're all grappling with addiction in different forms as well. What does it mean to find serenity um, in a situation where you grew up in a home where someone did not love you the way they ought to? And how do you relearn to love again? How do you relearn not to pass that curse on? And there's a couple of characters who have epiphanies throughout the book, and they meet different people where they come to understand that the great joy of faith is being able to believe when things aren't going well and find peace when things aren't going well. The faith's great gift is not that you will be happy when the world is happy, because everybody has that. Faith's great gift is that when the lights are out and you're in the dark, your faith still shines brightly. And that's what I tried to show within the book.
Serenity indeed, people, serenity. In what ways do their experiences mirror the faith struggles many people face today?
So I think some of the things that Laloni's going through grief of her father, and the sisters are going through grief not only of their brother, but of her aunts are going through grief of their parents. But Laloni's also going through a cultural grief because suddenly she realizes that she was torn away from something very dear in colonization of Hawaii. And it takes her a while to understand that. She's displaced a little bit. And Carrie's trying to understand what does it mean to love her mom when she realizes at one point that her mom's never going to change. Her mom's never going to be the good mommy that's going to give her a hug and say that she's proud of her. So what does it mean to love her with and have boundaries? Um, and in both those stories, they meet a woman by the name of Isabella, and Isabella is kind of like a mentor, but she has some really good advice to give the girls. But she too is struggling with the idea of how do you trust people that are untrustworthy in this world. And I think they find it's written from a Christian perspective, so they do that. The faith they're struggling with is their faith in God and Jesus Christ. But I think they come to a place of resolution there when they realized that Jesus himself had scars when he rose from the dead. He didn't lose his scars. And what does that mean in our walk? It means that sometimes we're going to have scars too. We're going to have some sores that aren't going to be healed as well.
Totally amazing, empowering answer, Pastor Cheryl. And what role does faith play in helping the characters navigate loss, doubt, and trauma?
So some of the I think what faith really does for Laloni and Carrie, especially, is it gives them a different perspective. After they realize inside the book that everyone suffers, and some people suffer more simply because of where they were born, the geography of where they were born. Um, that the perspective can't just be about me, or it can't be about finding a fairy tale ending that I'm going to get over this mountain and everything's going to be wonderful. That's not a healthy way to live your life. To constantly be yearning for a city where there's no troubles. What they learn, what I hope the readers learn, is that the great joy of growing up and finding faith in Christ is to see God's perspective, that there's more things at stake. There's bigger things out there. And faith strengthens you for the battle. It doesn't take the battle away. And that's what Carrie and Laloni have to learn. Isabel helps teach him that there's a Filipino police woman who comes alongside of them and helps teach Carrie that there is, and because of her background, there is a there's a woman with dementia who used to be a Guatemalan um, immigrant who tells a story of what it meant to walk through the desert to try to find safety for her daughter. We learn a little bit that from her. And I used one character that was really in history. Her name's Maria Moreno. She was a woman who worked with Cesar Chavez, who was a Christian who fought for the rights of immigrants and later became a missionary. And she helps teach us that faith isn't about finding the easiest life for yourself. Faith is about making serenity amidst the wars of this world and finding peace in Christ in the middle of the disheveling and the bigotry and the unkindness this world has to offer. And that if you put your hands in the hands of Christ, you can get through anything. But don't expect to be walked into paradise here on this earth because it doesn't exist. I think they all
Indeed.
understand a sense of heaven, but I think they're primarily the lesson they have in this book is that they have the strength to go on because of Christ.
Pastor Cheryl, how do you explore the idea of home, both spiritually and emotionally in the story?
You know, the word family and familiar are the same, have the same root word. So we tend to find places that are familiar to make our homes. Unfortunately, if you come from an alcoholic and abusive home, you're going to find yourself feeling safe with alcoholics or violent people. So both Carrie and Maloney have to learn that the people they love, the people that they want to love and justify, were not safe. And that's the first step to healing. And they feel like they're betraying someone when they do that. Because Carrie loves her mom and dad. Laloni loves her father, even though she knows he's an alcoholic, and her mother, who passed away. But both of them learning that their parents had shortcomings they did not want to bring into their new life as adults, is a big part of the book. And that's just a wisdom lesson piece that we all have to find is learning that when we want to create home, we can't just look for what's familiar or we're going to continue to live in the curses of the past. Sometimes you might have to find a place that's a little more healthy, but a little bit uncomfortable for us. And so that they find their sense of home when they understand that home is a place where you can speak the truth to people you love, and tell them when you're frightened because they're violent or whether or what they're using, or tell someone you love that it wasn't fair what happened to them. So in my book, there's a big meeting in the chapel where they all share their hearts, and I'm hoping people come away with that conversation that you can't have safety in home until you have honesty. And honesty is something you have to learn over time.
Honesty is the best policy, as they said. Pastor Cheryl, very well said. Again, beautifully articulated. As an author, Pastor Cheryl, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, I want to continue to work in the pulpit, and I'm working on another book called it's a devotion for survivors of abuse. So I'm working on that one called A Hope in the Future. But I want to continue to write and preach and teach and just enjoy my life.
Yes, enjoy life, people, because life is too short. And what would be your advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
You have to keep doing it. Realize that it's a skill. It's not. It shouldn't be a fad. It's not a way to get rich quick. But like all arts, you have to do it for its own sake first. And to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. So I would suggest that they read And I would suggest that they work on their style and that they listen to what other people have to say, and realize it's going to take time to learn to write a good book. But you keep, it's like anything, just keep at it, keep knocking on doors, and eventually one will open for you.
Yes, indeed. Try and try and try until you succeed. And let's talk about the symbolism and setting. Pastor Cheryl, are there any symbolic elements like the forgotten door that carry deeper meaning throughout the story?
Yeah, I think so. I think that when they go into the chapel, there's some pictures. If you read the book, there's some tapestries on the wall that are just the stories of the miracles of Jesus, but they have deeper meaning to the women that are looking at them. So I don't want to give the plot away. But when you're reading the book, when they walk into the chapel and they're looking at these tapestries, and there's stained glass windows on the other side that are reflecting on the tapestries, think about what those miracles meant. That's an important symbol in the book. I think another important symbol is the journeys the women take. So there's three important journeys in the book. One where Carrie loses her bus pass and has to walk 3 miles. One where Abasi has to walk through Mexico to get to the United States. And the other one is Laloni when she gets ill and she runs out into the rain while she's sick and can't find the way home. In each of those journeys, they realize suddenly they left behind everything that was familiar, and they have to create their own sense of home. And that's one of the big journeys in the book that I hope that symbolisms in the book that I hope people can take with them, that we take our home within us. Our home is within us. It's not a destination, it's inside of us. And the more safe we feel, the better home that we can build.
Indeed, people, we are the home itself. What do you hope readers feel or reflect after finishing Forgotten Door Cold Home?
Well, I hope anyone who has ever felt bereft or lost the people they love, or someone who suffered abuse, will first of all resonate with it. Say, "Oh, this is a little bit like me," and will understand that it's not. Although the average person reads and says it's tragedy, it's not. It's not ultimately tragic in that there's solutions to it. There's healing to be had. There's happiness to be had after the abuse. Yes, what happened to you is sad, and some people can say it's tragic, but in the literary sense, when you read a book and you say a book is a tragedy, it's like Hamlet. There's no way out. Everyone's gonna die at the end. That's not true with abuse. Life can be really good after abuse. It can be sweet and dear, and you can have people who love you, and you can love those people, and you can have times of laughter and joy. You just have to work through a lot of anger and a lot of hurt. And I'm hoping this book empowers women to say that this happens to all kinds of people, and people learn to overcome it, and they learn to be better for it.
Yes, indeed. How would you recommend someone use this book as a devotional discussion guide or a personal inspiration?
Well, I hope that they read it first of all just to enjoy it, so personal inspiration. But I hope that they also take it to their friends and to people who have been through abuse, and they underline parts because I do talk a lot about what it means to be isolated and abandoned, so that they'll understand what it's like to be abandoned by people you love. And I hope it gives everybody a greater understanding of what does it mean when you feel you're out there on your own and you're really too young to be out there on your own.
Yes, indeed. Have readers share how this book has impacted their own faith, journeys, or relationships?
Yeah, people have sent me emails, and I think that's the best part about writing a book when someone gets it. Someone once said, "Please read this. This is me," under one of my advertisements on Facebook, and that touched me very much. Um, I I love the reviews on Amazon because I don't know these people, and they get what I'm trying to say, and they feel blessed by it. And that's my whole motivation for writing it is I want to write something that people read and afterwards they get a greater sense of purpose and a greater sense of strength from it. And that's what I hope that I'm doing through the book.
Congratulations, Pastor Cheryl, and looking for more success. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast because Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, Book 101 Review in fifth season, Comedy 101 in second season, and Food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 and Love Letters in third season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Pastor Cheryl, if Karen and Laloni could speak directly to readers today, what message do you think they would share?
Well, that it's not always going to be this way. There's joy on the other side of the mountain. And
Yes,
keep going forward, I think is what they would both say.
indeed. Behind the clouds, there's still the sun shining.
Amen.
Reverend Cheryl Kincaid, thank you so much for sharing Forgotten Door Cold Home to the world. And we are hoping for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Thank you so much.
Where do you usually buy your book, Miss
You can
Reverend?
visit me at revcherylkincaid.com. That's my website. And you can also buy them on amazon.com. And I also have a website called Dickens Christianity about .com, which is about Charles Dickens, a book I wrote about him. But yeah, basically visit my website, revcherylkincaid, .com. And then there are links not only to my books, but also to some of my sermons and theology if you want to check out what I believe and who I am.
Yes, people, I support Pastor Cheryl Kincaid because if you support her, as I said, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Pastor Cheryl, can thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.